First story. Found out the truth after 16 years. Losing my family. She ruined my life, lied for 16 years and ruined our family. Okay, 40 meters and 40F. I found out 8 months after we got married that my wife had several affairs before we had our child years ago. I knew something happened during that time period, but I never could get her to tell me the truth. We have been together for 23 years. She was 16, I was 18. So it is 2008. I knew something was wrong, and I was looking for what she was doing. Eventually I found a phone she was given by a dude and realized obviously she was cheating on me. The conversation went on forever, but ultimately she said we never met. We just texted and we are doing sexting. I never truly believed her, but I wanted to. I spent time over the next 16 years talking about it, questioning it and looking for the truth. At that time in 2007, we were engaged, we were living together and looking to have a family. Since I knew something was up, we never got married. I waited a long time until I became comfortable again, and I even got to the point I believed her enough to get married. So we got married in 22. A few months after I spoke to the dude from 2008 and basically got some info to confirm my suspicion. So I confronted her and she admitted that she had an affair. We had issues for about 15 months, working on the why, how, what caused the affair, and I basically wanted to understand her and why, so I could make a decision about my future and now my daughter's future. The entire 15 months ended up again all being a lie. She lied about most of she shared. How did this happen? As we kept talking about our affair, all the details changed. There was just too many issues. So she told me she would take a lie detector test to prove she was honest, loved me, was not lying, ECT. Ended up that she wasn't just lying about this, but apparently she had several other affairs around the same time. She took the test to fail. She took it because she would not tell me the truth and thought she could fake the test. She failed, and since I was so skeptical I asked a question like, have you slept with people? And when that question came up, she failed miserably. We had been together forever, so there was very few times in life we were not with each other. So I figured that was a quick and easy way to confirm any other issue, and I sure found out more. We have had a daughter. She is 15. Life has generally been normal and loving between us since all of this. Besides not knowing the truth, I was happy, invested and a good person. I hate the fact I now have to ruin my daughter's life because of what she did. It was long ago, but for me it's today. I could never be okay with someone who could lie so easily. I guess it just gets better over time. Second story. Kick my wife out for the week. My wife and I have been together for 8 years, married for 5. We have a beautiful 4-year-old who has a very rare genetic condition that comes with a whole host of medical issues. Everything has been good, but our daughter's diagnosis definitely changed us. A few weeks ago, I received a call from someone claiming their husband had sex with my wife. She had so many details, but I couldn't imagine that my wife would do that. She's never expressed much dissatisfaction physically, emotionally, or otherwise. I asked my wife about it and she denied it. I got trickle truth the next day that she had indeed been texting this guy, but said it was never physical. Her story didn't make much sense, and why would this stranger lie? I spent the next week or two trying to figure out how to make sense of it. My brain telling me she's cheating, my gut telling me she is not. I eventually reached out to the other betrayed spouse to see if she had more answers. She did. She provided a host of proof which allowed me to ask the right question, and I got the answer I should have expected the whole time. She met a man at the gym. They eventually exchanged numbers and bonded about how they feel their partners are checked out and they don't feel appreciated. Eventually they got a hotel room, had sex, and then the world ended for us later that day. As far as I know, the timeline is that an emotional affair culminated into a physical one. As far as all parties are involved, It was just that one morning, which I guess doesn't really matter. After that, they talked and realized they had made a huge mistake and have been in contact with each other. The first few nights I drank as much as I could, blacking out before 8 to 9 p.m. every night. She slept on the couch, I stayed in her bed. I told her I needed some time and she should stay somewhere else, which she agreed to. She left for the week today to stay at her friend's house. Last night was my first sober night in a long time. I plan on continuing that tradition for the foreseeable future. I know it was only delaying the emotions I was going to feel, so I decided better now than later. We've had some difficult conversations, lots of crying on both sides, and I do genuinely feel she's remorseful. She said she's felt we've grown apart, and that we barely do anything together, and that she's missed me. She claims she doesn't understand why she did it, and that she has a lot of work to do. We are working on getting counseling both individually and marriage. At the very least, it will help transition us into successfully co-parenting our daughter. She said she wanted to try to express her feelings and disclose the affair in therapy, but I have no clue how that was going to work. It is true that we've grown apart. Having a special needs child really takes up a lot of your time and energy. While I take no responsibility for her actions, nor does she blame me, we both have talked at length and apologized for letting our marriage go. So, I have the week with me and our kid to try to recalibrate. I'm just trying to eat, sleep, try to work out, drink only water, and be in contact with my support system. Am I an absolute idiot for entertaining the idea of reconciling? There's so much work to be done now, but she's still my best friend and I love her. She feels the same. Am I doing this right or am I being stupid? Third story. Cheating GF for 2 years. Never told this story to anyone about my ex, mostly because I was so embarrassed by it. Now, writing this down, I remember how naive and blindly in love I was. I, 25M, started dating this girl, 20F, I matched with on Tinder. Everything was great. She was super attractive, and I enjoyed her company. We had a long-distance relationship for most of our time together. 40 minutes away the first year, and then 4 hours away, when she started studying in a different city. I didn't mind a bit of long distance because I was busy working during the weekdays, so I could only meet her on weekends. She was doing a language exchange course, and I knew she would have to go back to her country after that. But she had a plan to start studying at a university after her language exchange, which gave me hope that it might actually work out. So, the first year was pretty great. It was my first more serious relationship, so I was trying to be the best boyfriend I could. She, on the other hand, was always making me jealous and insecure during our time together. But I always tried to keep that to myself because I hated being controlling or showing insecurities. I thought that's what a good boyfriend does. She was going out a lot during the week to nightclubs. Sometimes her phone was turned off, and there was no reply for ages. I'm not a big texter, so I usually didn't mind unless she was out with her friends. Anyway, more and more suspicions grew that she might be unfaithful. The day she had to move back to her country for 3 months before starting her university, I helped her pack her stuff and throw things she didn't need. In her drawer, I found multiple condoms. I wouldn't have minded, but we hadn't been using condoms for the last 6 months of our relationship. So I asked her why she had them, and she convinced me they were just for safety. 3 months without seeing each other was not as bad as I expected. We texted each other, called every few days, and kept the spark going in other ways. But she always had a higher sex drive than me, which made me even more insecure when she constantly reminded me how horny she was and how badly she needed it. But I thought she was just sharing her feelings, and as long as she loved me, there was nothing to worry about. Finally, 3 months passed, and she was back in my country. I took a week off from my job and helped her settle into the student accommodation. Life was great. After I left, the next day, I noticed that she started getting new followers on IG from other guys. I had a bad feeling that she might be using Tinder. So I installed it, changed my location to hers, and started swiping to see if I could find her profile. Soon enough, I saw her profile, with photos I had taken of her that week. My heart sank. I took a screenshot, wrote a huge message to her about how she could do that, and I blocked her for a week. Again, being so naive and blindly in love, I texted her after a week asking for an explanation. She replied and convinced me that she wasn't meeting anyone. She just wanted compliments and attention because she wasn't feeling great in a new city. I forgave her and believed her, as I still didn't have 100% proof of her cheating, only suspicions. During the next year, there were many red flags, such as a used condom behind her bed. I convinced myself it was from previous students who lived there, and her comments about watching cheating porn. Apparently, she was only joking. One evening while I was visiting her, I had her phone in my hand to change the music on a speaker. She received a text message from a random number asking, "Are you working tonight?" That threw me off because she didn't have a job. Apart from being a nanny in the first year, she always let me know when she was working. She didn't let me have her phone for long and requested it back anxiously. I knew something was wrong. The next day, she went to university while I stayed at her place. I had access to her laptop, which means I had access to her Facebook and Instagram. I discovered she was still meeting her ex during the first few months of our relationship, if not longer, and meeting other guys at the same time. She was meeting guys she matched with on Tinder and her university friend. That was enough for me. I started packing my stuff and waited for her so I could also check her phone. When she arrived, I demanded to see her phone. She threw a tantrum but finally gave in. To be honest, I wish I hadn't checked. I already had proof and should have just moved on. What I found in her phone was even worse than what I found on her laptop. Apparently, she was working as an escort for the last 2 months, and everything just started making sense. I left, blocked her, and never talked about it. Thinking about it all now, I realize how stupid and naive I was. But I try to convince myself that I did it for a good reason, trying to trust a person. Now I have my boundaries, I know my values, and I don't tolerate this bullshit. It feels good to let this all out. Fourth story. Wife. Quick recap. My wife was at her last day of a job she had through the pandemic. She was the GM and worked every single day without a day off. Always taking care of things. We had prepared for the day and bought an overland vehicle to drive the Pan American HWY on her very last day of work. Something we had built up to for over a year. She disappeared. I was home cooking dinner, waiting, texted, called, and even called her work. She was a ghost. Midnight comes and I'm very worried. She has never disappeared before in 10 years. 2 a.m. and I'm blowing up her phone and she texts me back. I got completely wasted, blacked out, and crashed on Mike's couch. Now I know Mike, he's the quintessential depressed guy on antidepressants, always complaining about how he can't keep a girl because he has issues below the belt. So in response I said I'm not happy about that and you should have called me. Fast forward a few weeks and she admitted to sleeping with him. I was shocked based on his history. Well, I kicked her out of our house and she went with friends. Days go by and after a late shift on a Thursday night, I decided to go look for her after she gets off work. I found her with another guy. They were taking selfies and holding hands in thighs, looking very cozy. I called her out, not in person because it's in a place of business I respect and didn't want to make a scene. She came clean right away. Yeah, I've been on a few dates. At this point, who knows how many guys she's seeing. More to come. She needs to come home because she needs to pack for a trip to Europe. She booked and gather her travel stuff. For the first time ever, she left her phone on the kitchen table while she was in the bathroom. Like ever. Well, she's my wife still, so I opened it up and looked at her texts. She had gotten back in contact with her ex from 2011, and boy, they were having some sexual conversations to say the least. Stuff she has never said to me in 10 years. I called her out and she said it's nothing, he's in LA, and it's just for fun, but in the texts she is making plans to see him. I asked about the plans and she said her flight leaves out of Seattle and straight to Europe. Well, Houston, we have a problem. Little does she know our lives are very entwined and our Google photos are linked. Lo and behold, a day after her flight she's with her ex in LA taking pictures. Busted. Again. The love of my life one day right before we both quit our jobs and have the trip of a lifetime planned meticulously. Turns into a repeat cheater on a whole different level. I'm now at the house taking care of everything, the dog, the bills, and still working full-time, while she is out traveling and God knows what else. But I have access to every picture she is taking because our accounts are linked. It's like a sick joke. I need to rant now. I need to go to the dog park because responsibilities. Fifth story. This fucking hurts, man. I thought I was just mad, but I'm emotionally destroyed, and that's setting in now about 48 hours after learning of my wife's affair. We've been married for 13 years. High school sweethearts, survived 7+ HR long distance all through college. Waited until our 30s to have kids and now have a 3-0 and a 6-0. My parents are QAnon whack jobs and I have very little contact with them. I'm extremely close with her family as I've been a member of that family for 15+ years. Only grandpas I've ever had, only caring parental figures I've known, extended family I'd take over mine every day. 6 months ago she went on a 12-day work trip out of the country. An employee from another location of the same company also joined. She talked about their friendship on the trip after she came back, and I was glad she'd found someone to enjoy the trip with. I'm a human. That sounds reasonable. A couple months after she's back she insists that our family meet his family at a local kids play area. They're fine. He brings his wife and his kids. We're all meeting each other for the first time and they're old pals, so I didn't think much of their familiarity. Another month goes by and my wife plans a double date with him and his wife. It was fine, but uneventful. I got along with him alright, but overall he's not the kind of guy I'd choose to spend time with, and neither is his wife. Nothing against them, I'm just picky, I guess. I've got face login on my wife's phone as she has mine. She was showering and got a text from him. I opened it and it was pretty mundane, how's your day kinda thing. Weird part was there were no other texts from him. I knew she'd deleted them, but decided to leave it be as I had no indication that anything untoward was happening at that point. Last weekend she went on a trip with this guy and another associate who traveled out of the country with them. Meaningful adult relationships are rare and I genuinely believed that was happening. She did a bachelorette party Thursday, Sunday morning, then left for a day trip all day Monday. She called at 11 p.m. stating the train was late, and she wondered if I cared if she stayed at her AP's place, since it was 1.5 HRS closer than our house. I told her you're an adult, make good choices, and went to bed. She got home around 1 a.m. after deciding to come home, not complaining about spending time with my kids, but 4 days straight as work. Wednesday I'm cleaning the kitchen and realized she'd left her phone downstairs while she did bedtime with our youngest. I'd finished bedtime with the oldest and went downstairs to do the dishes. Again, a text message from AP, except this time she hadn't deleted messages for a couple days. I miss you, heart. Wish you were here, good morning, have a great day kind of shit. Nothing explicit or sexual, but that's not her way. I sent screenshots of the messages to myself, as well as the contact info for the third wheel they took to on their day trip to cover for them. Didn't say shit that night and just fury cleaned, slept like dog shit. Didn't say anything the next morning because that was time to get the kids ready and out the door. I don't think she'd realized I knew until she texted at the end of the day to say she was headed to pick up the kids and saw the last texts from her phone to mine. After the kids went to bed I confronted her about it and told her, don't fuck this up. Don't fuck up my kids. Don't make them the kids that have parents that divorce before grade school. She cried, said she was sorry, and he was really nice to me and we've got a great friendship. I ended the conversation saying I don't know what I need, I don't know what's next, but nothing I'm going to say or ask right will be something I'm proud of tomorrow, so please leave me alone. I'm fucking lost unbroken. Sixth story. I never thought I'd be here. I just found out. We are celebrating 20 years of marriage this fall. Here's the breakdown. We are both very religious and both ordained ministers. We met in Bible college and got married after we graduated. I confessed to looking at porn around year 4 of marriage. It was a very difficult path of reconciliation after that. I know she's never been fully happy in our marriage. In 2020, my wife became very sick with COVID. She nearly died and has never fully recovered. She has chronic illness and has lost so much. She understandably struggled with depression as she was trying to cope with her new life. Part of her therapy was dealing with trauma from her childhood. The mental stress that it caused affected her physical health. She contacted some people from her high school. I was supportive. Most were just a few messages, but one turned into a deeper friendship. I was supportive. He isn't a believer and has an open relationship. They've been messaging for a few years, but I thought I could fully trust my wife. We talked briefly a couple times that he had made advances on her. I communicated that I didn't want it to develop, but that I trusted her to do the right thing. I feel like an idiot now. It seemed like her friendship with him was helping her mentally. She had lost so much to her illness. We live and work overseas, but she was back in the US with our son for a few weeks. I knew that she visited him. A few days ago I was a little suspicious and asked her about it. Seemed like it was nothing, so I let it go. Today I was suspicious again. I checked her messages with him and immediately saw pictures she sent that were topless. I scrolled back through and found that they had been flirting for a while, but started sexting back in March. I called her immediately. I made sure she was in a room by herself and asked her directly if she slept with him. We talked for about 2 hours. I can't recount that convo right now. She drove to his house and had an affair. I'm not entirely clear if he had sex with her, but they definitely made each other have orgasms. I don't want to get any more graphic than that at the moment. I am at a total loss.